What's up, everybody? Welcome on into the Sports Forum's number 5 2025 NFL schedule and record prediction show. I'm Riggs Tamburo, joined by two special analysts today. First of all, Mr. Bryson Owens. You can find him at Bryson Owens 16. My man, good to see you. NBA's over. NHL's over.
Yep.
You're starting to feel the NFL vibes.
It's getting there. You know, next month is when training camp starts. We have rookies coming into training camp in about 2.5 weeks, give or take 3 weeks. And then the real deal starts in about a month. And that's kind of when it really feels like football's back, is when everyone's back in training camp. You got fans watching players do their thing again for the first time in months. So we're almost there. I can feel it.
Players are coming back to the office. We're getting back in the groove of the NFL. Things are feeling good. And with that, we have brought on a new team member. We are excited to have her here, Mrs. Ella Brasinga. It is good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Your first show with us over here. How you feeling?
Pretty good. I'm really excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and dive on in here, guys. We're going to do week 1 through the entire regular season, give you guys if we think they're going to win or lose in each game. We'll keep track of those record predictions. And then at the end of the show, we will figure out which of us has them going over, which of us has them going under their 2025 listed win total on the year. So that said, going to go ahead and pull up the Detroit Lions schedule for you guys here. Very fun schedule for these guys, might I say, this season. Taking a look, you got the Green Bay Packers in week 1, Sunday, September 7th on CBS, 4:25 p.m. Eastern time in that afternoon window. Bryson, at the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love and company, a lot of expectations this year. Lions looking to pick up this momentum where they left off the past 2 seasons, and this time go on that deep playoff run. Do they kick things off with a big-time win in Green Bay?
So before I go too deep into this specific game, I do want to talk just a little bit about how interesting this Lions team is, especially compared to the last one. And when you look at the schedule, it's so different compared to last year's schedule. Like last year, the Detroit Lions were, from start to finish, one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think one of the underrated things that people didn't talk about a lot with the Lions last year and why they did so well is they played a lot of games either indoors or in warm weather climates, you know, barring their road game against Green Bay, road game against Chicago. I think it was something like 14 of their 17 games were either warm weather places or in a dome. And so before we go too deep in the schedule, there's a ton of road games in cold weather environments that I think is going to be a really interesting thing to keep an eye on with the Lions. That and a lot of turnover with this team. Obviously, they lost both their coordinators. They have a whole new coordinating staff. They lost their star, probably future Hall of Fame center, and Frank Ragnow to retirement. So an interesting look compared to last year for this Lions team. Now with this first game against Green Bay, I mentioned they play a lot of road games, especially outside in cold weather environments this year. I thought this was a good spot to get the Green Bay Packers. It is in Lambeau, but it's early season. It's the first week of the season, so it's still going to be warm. It's not going to be a snowy blizzard game like you get sometimes with Lambeau Field later in the year. So I think that's going to help with the Lions a lot. I like that they went really heavy adding on to their defense in the offseason. They went and got DJ Reed at corner, drafted Tyleik Williams in the first round of the NFL draft. Like, I thought they did a really good job of shoring up a kind of weak-ish defense from last year. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson coming back from his broken leg. So, and the Packers, weirdly, weren't a good division team last year. They went 1-5 in the division last year. So I don't know what it was, but the Packers couldn't beat division teams. So I like that for the Lions as well. So I'm going to give the Detroit Lions, even though it's going to be really interesting to see what their start looks like with how much change they have. I'm going to give them a week 1 win.
Week 1 win on the road. Ella, looking here at this one. Are you with Bryson? Do the Lions go on the road here and steal game 1 at Lambeau? Or is this a Green Bay Packers big-time win to kick things off?
I think I do agree with Bryson. I mean, even though they're traveling for their first game for the season, I think they have a very high-powered offense. And it's built for like very big starts. So right off the bat, I think they're going to come out strong, even though they're traveling.
I'm kind of right there with you guys. I understand the Lions thing, but Bryson, one thing you know about me, my man, I like me, the Green Bay Packers specifically. I like me some Josh Jacobs. That is my dog. I told you he should have been in the running for MVP last season. you mentioned it. They go 1-5 in the division, but you know whose fault it wasn't? It wasn't Josh Jacobs' fault. I think Josh Jacobs has a massive game here in week 1 against the Lions. Now, that said, with Aiden Hutchinson back, I'm assuming he'll be good to go week 1. I think at this point that timetable is that he'll be ready to go. Will he be 100%? Maybe not quite. But at the same time, you have to figure in that they know that Josh Jacobs truly is the way to win this football game for them. Now, the air weapons are better for the Packers this year as well. We saw what they did in the draft. We were a little bit surprised at a couple points. We were like, why are they doing that? But they're trying to stack up that wide receiver room. And you mentioned it. The Lions' one downfall is that defense. They have a couple coaching staff guys leave in the offseason. I'm not convinced that this Lions team can keep this team under 30 points in this game. I'm going to go with a massive week 1 win for the Green Bay Packers. Give me Green Bay 31-27. I think Goff has the ball late. I just don't think he gets it done. So a win for both of them for the Lions and a loss for me for Detroit in week number 1. Then looking at week 2 here on Fox, 1 o'clock, standard game here on Sunday. The Chicago Bears are coming to Detroit for Detroit's opener at home. A fully sold out game, might I add, and a tough place to play. Ella, when you look here at the Bears, are you convinced that the Bears and Caleb Williams are the kind of team that can come on the road and take down Jared Goff at home, or is this a big-time Lions win?
I think it's also big time Lions wins. I mean, they're coming off a very strong season, 15-2, and the Bears are still figuring out like their roster with everything, and I just don't think they figured out a very strong team yet. They're not very comfortable with each other either, and then especially playing at another person's field, I think it's just automatically you have a disadvantage. So I think the Lions definitely have an advantage here.
2-0 start for the Detroit Lions for Miss Ella Bryson. Are you with her on that one? You and I, not necessarily the biggest Caleb Williams people, but a lot of people.
Caleb guy.
Hey, I should have rephrased my statement. It's not that you don't like him. It's that you have to, at some point, Bryson, admit that he's not that guy. He's a lot of things, but he's not a good quarterback. So I don't see how he walks in here. I'll go ahead and steal the spotlight for you. You can be the final one. I'm going to join Ella here. I'm on the Lions all day long. I think Caleb Williams gets exposed in this game. I think Hutchinson eats him for breakfast. It's a pretty early game there. So yeah, I think if you just have a little bit of yogurt, maybe a protein shake, then you have Caleb Williams for the entree. So I think he's going down. And honestly, I think it's Lions via murder. Give me a 2-touchdown win here.
I think this is going to be a better game than you guys are giving it credit for. I'm a bigger Caleb Williams guy than you are, Riggs. I thought he underperformed for sure. I mean, he was the first overall pick, had all these expectations of already breaking every Bears record right away. And he underperformed, sure. But he was still, like, you look at his numbers, he put up pretty good rookie quarterback numbers with a really dysfunctional coaching staff. Like, that was one of the worst coaching staffs in football. I think one of the underrated parts about this game that you guys didn't mention is Ben Johnson, the former offensive coordinator for the Lions, the architect of this high-powered Lions offense over the last couple of years, is now the Bears head coach. And this is his first game back in Detroit. He knows this Lions team really well. I think he has the pieces in Chicago to do a lot of the things he did in Detroit. And now he has a more mobile quarterback because I love Jared Goff. Dude's a statue. Jared Goff isn't moving. Caleb Williams is at least athletic enough to do other things at the quarterback position. And I love that the Bears saw that their biggest weakness was their O-line. So they went out and got 3 Pro Bowl level veteran interior offensive linemen to help fix that. Their biggest one, obviously, being Joe Thuney. I think this is going to be a closer game than you guys are giving it credit for. I think it's going to be high scoring. I see it being like a 31-28 type of game. I do have the Lions winning, but I would not be shocked one bit if the Chicago Bears walk into Detroit and get a win in week 2. I'm going to give it to the Detroit for right now, but I think Chicago is going to be a better team than people think.
Mr. Owens, I am hearing a safety net from you. I'm hearing, the Lions are going to win, but Caleb's pretty good, and the coach is pretty good, and the line's pretty good, and they might win. But I'm going like, you got to pick a lane here, brother.
I'm picking the
Is
Lions.
Caleb
to win.
Williams going to go in here and expose the Lions? Or are the Lions going to handle business and Caleb Williams just gets another fat L? Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you lose by 1. I don't care if you lose by 14. L's an L.
No, but see, I think that's different in my opinion, because you're saying it's going to be a Lions murder and Caleb is going to look way over his skis and not look like he belongs. I think Caleb is going to play well. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that they're going to give the Lions a run for their money. I think week 2 is a tough spot for them. They're still figuring things out with that new coaching staff. So I think that's part of why I have the Lions winning that game. But I'm probably spoiling it now. I probably have the Bears winning in Chicago.
Oh, I can't wait to get to that one. But okay, there you go. Ella and I taking the Lions to get it done. Bryson also going to take the Lions to get it done, but saying the Bears might just find a way to figure that one out. Hey, you know what? For their sake, I kind of hope so. I like to see things get shook up a little bit in the division and in the conference, but I'm just not on Caleb Williams yet. But we will see what happens. Then a massive football game, one of my favorites in the first couple weeks of the season. We got the Baltimore Ravens Monday Night Football, ABC, ESPN going down in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, 2 teams that, hey, could be in the Super Bowl this year. Go look at the logo. They say the logo tells all. The logo's got a little blue. It's got a little purple. Maybe this is a Super Bowl matchup. But Bryson, looking at this one, my man, in Baltimore, do you trust Jared Goff outdoors, by the way, where he struggles to go on the road and get a big win?
It is outdoors. It's still early in the season, so I don't think it will be super cold. Could be windy. It is a night game, so it could be a little bit colder than normal. I think the biggest reason I have the Ravens winning this football game, though, is there aren't very many offenses. Now, they play a few of them, but there aren't very many offenses that can go toe-to-toe with this Detroit Lions team. Like, you talk about weapon for weapon, quarterback for quarterback, running back for running back, the whole deal. There aren't very many teams that can do it, and Baltimore is one of them. Like, Baltimore had one of the best offenses in the NFL last season, and I think they got slightly better in this offseason, just little improvements in the wide receiver room, another year with Derrick Henry, all those kinds of things. And so the Ravens not only have the offense that can go shot for shot with Detroit, they have the defense that can give this Lions team a lot of issues. They upgraded the defense a lot in the offseason as well. They started last season really slow on that side of the ball, but after I think it was like week 10 and on, Baltimore had one of the best defenses in football. So the talent is there. The secondary is really good in Baltimore as well. You talk about the corners, adding Jair Alexander, who knows this Lions team really well, being a former Packer. I think this is a tough spot for Detroit, so I'm going to give Baltimore the win in Baltimore.
Ella, are you a Lamar Jackson believer here? Does the man on the screen, Jared Goff, find a way to go on the road here and make a statement in week 3?
I don't think so. I mean, Lamar Jackson is honestly a nightmare to defend. He's very fast and shifty, and he could really beat you in like a leg race. So if Detroit's defense loses or, misses tackles, he can easily break off, and it could be a huge play for them. And, playing in that environment as well, it's a huge and very loud, high pressure environment, and 1 or 2 mistakes, especially early in the game, could really hurt them. So I have Baltimore winning for this one.
Yeah. I'm a Steelers fan. I never like it saying Baltimore is going to do anything at all, ever, in any scenario. Unless they play the Cowboys, then I guess I'll take Baltimore. But other than that, I have to agree with you here. And I think you nailed it with Lamar Jackson, his mobility, his speed. We saw it last season. Once you combine that with Derrick Henry, it just became a massive problem. Then they went out. We've talked about it on many shows before. They haven't really ever had, I shouldn't say ever had, they haven't really had this super threatening receiving core and everything like that. They've had some Mark Andrews injuries, whatever. But week 3, Andrews is going to be healthy. He's on a redemption tour. They end the season by him dropping a ball, falling into the end zone. So he's got something to prove. I think Lamar's got something to prove. Derrick Henry, he's only got 1 or 2 more good years left in him. I think he's going to go off in this game. And then, like you mentioned, when all's said and done, you still got to worry about Lamar Jackson. As a Steelers fan, I watched this guy, quarterback keeper, 7 out of 8 plays in a row last season, and dice us. So to think that the Lions defense is going to contain that, I just don't think so, not in Baltimore. So I will join you on the Baltimore Ravens to get this one done. A win for me in that category. Then Moving on through here, guys. Week number 4. Some teams already getting bye weeks in that week 4 spot, but these guys got the Cleveland Browns. Very interesting game here. This one is at home, second home game of the season on Sunday. Technically on a short week, but if you're going to play on a short week, that's the team that you want to see in your window in the number 4 spot. So Ella, looking at this one here, the Cleveland Browns, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. It could be Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, anybody. I mean, I don't even want to get into it. It could be
Flacco.
Anybody at this point. Joe Flacco. I mean, I think it's fair to say it could be Flacco week 4 because they could go the veteran style, but they've kind of come out and said, we don't want to hand it to Joe Flacco. We want one of the rookies to be ready to go. In that case, I'm going to assume it's Shedeur Sanders. So you have to make a prediction here, but in your opinion, does it matter who the quarterback is here, or is this a Lions win?
I mean, honestly, I think it doesn't really matter. I think the Lions have the clear edge on offense, and also they're playing a home game again, which gives them a big boost and definitely a lot of confidence in that area. And with weapons like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jared Goff, they should have plenty of options to move the ball against their defense. And if Detroit can start fast and, protect their players, they can definitely control the game and keep the crowd energized, which is very helpful in, high intense games and stuff. And their ability to mix, the runs and passes, it makes them very hard to stop for the defense. And, yeah.
Well, there you go, Mr. Owens. Are you with her on that one, or are you going to go left field here? Cleveland Browns kind of put up a fight, make a couple big plays with Myles Garrett, and we could find ourselves in a football game.
So I think you mentioned the one player that could make this somehow a football game is Myles Garrett, but he's going against one of the best offensive lines in football with Detroit. And even though they lost their Hall of Fame center in Frank Ragnow, one, that's not who Myles Garrett would be going up against anyway. And they replaced him with one of the better interior offensive linemen in this draft. I'm really excited to see what Tate Rutledge. If you haven't looked up Tate Rutledge on Google yet, Google him because he looks like the prototypical NFL offensive lineman. He's got the stash, the mullet, the whole thing. But anyway, I've wasted enough time just trying to figure out some way for Cleveland to be competitive in this one, but I don't think it will be. I think this is going to be the first Detroit Lions real blowout win where they look like the Detroit team from last year where they win by 3+ touchdowns. You look at the schedule, there's only 2 real gimme wins in my opinion for Detroit this season, and one of them is the Browns, and so they better not mess around and let this game be competitive. They better take care of business against the Browns.
I think you pointed it out right there. This is the one where maybe a couple things, take a look at it again. Maybe some things went wrong in Green Bay in week 1, like I said. Maybe, like you mentioned, the Bears compete. Maybe the Ravens compete. There is a crazy world where they are 3-0, 1-2, 2-1, 0-3. Who knows what they're going to be? But this game is the game that there is no excuse. You have to find a way to win. It doesn't matter, like we mentioned. It could be the rookie quarterbacks. It could be Joe Flacco. You shouldn't lose this football game, so I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm kind of with you guys on this one. This should be a murder. Like I mentioned, I think it weirdly, for at least one half, could be a competitive game. It could be like a 3-point lead for the Lions. Everything's going wrong. Goff can't get it going. These guys need 2 drives, and they'll be up 17. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with you guys here. We're going to go Lions sweep to get it done in week number 4. Then week 5, we have an offensive shootout with the Cincinnati Bengals. One of the narratives right now in the NFL this offseason is that Cincinnati's going to put up 40 and they're going to lose by 1 and give up 41 in every single game because they can't stop nobody. Now you got Jared Goff coming to town, one of the best running back duos in all of football, arguably the best running back duo in all of football, plus some great receivers, plus Sam Laporta in tight end. The one thing that I would say they got going for them is that it's not indoors. In Detroit, I think this is a clear Lions win. But Bryson, on the road in Cincinnati, you're a giant Joe Burrow guy. Is this a Joe Burrow win?
So this one's a really tough one. You mentioned one of the key factors I have in this one for this game being it outdoors, and it is You're starting to get in October, so it is maybe getting a little bit colder, especially in a place like Cincinnati. So I can see that being a pretty big factor in this one. And I mentioned it earlier, there aren't many teams that can go shot for shot with this Lions offense. They just happen to play like all of them this season. We talked about Baltimore, you got Cincinnati. We'll get to them later, but they play the Eagles as well. Like they happen to play all the good offenses this year for Detroit, which is fascinating to watch. The issue is, you mentioned it, how are the Bengals going to stop anyone this year? Like, I just feel like it's going to be another year like last year where the Bengals have the number one overall offense in football. They're putting up 30-plus points per game. Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are playing exceptionally good football, and that defense just keeps letting them down game after game. Like, how many times last year did we see Cincinnati have a lead late in the game because Joe Burrow just fought his way back to getting them that lead, or forcing a tie and trying to get an overtime, and the Bengals give up a penalty to set up the game-winning field goal, or they let the other team march down the field and score a touchdown? Like, it happened so much last year, and the defense doesn't look any better this year than it did last year. So I think it's going to be another one of those situations, high-scoring game. Bengals take the lead late, but you mentioned it, Riggs. One of the best running back duos in football, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, too many weapons for this Bengals defense to stop. So I have the Lions getting the win, but it's going to be a massive shootout type of win.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see, I don't know if you guys pay attention, but a lot of these from Joe Burrow this year on the bench when he slides down because he's so sad. It's going to happen a couple times, and I think this is one of those ones, Bryson. I think you nailed it, my man. I'm with you. I think it's a Bengals magically got a lead with 2.5 minutes to go. They got to make one stop. Joe Burrow's sitting there sweating his butt off going, please, oh my God, one time. Yeah. You're not going to get your one time on this one, brother. Like you mentioned, it could be through the air. It could be on the ground. To not let the Lions move the chains on 4 plays, I don't know how they're going to do that. So I'm with you. It could be a murder. It could be a game-winning 54-yarder, but it's a Lions win for me. Sorry, Joe Burrow. Ella, are you with us on the Lions? Or are you a Joe Burrow believer? Is this a big-time win? This team is supposed to be a playoff team this year.
I've never really been a fan of Joe Burrow, so I'm with you both. I think you both nailed it completely.
Okay, there you go, guys. We are fading the man himself, Joey B, Joey Bird. No, it doesn't matter what you say. Not a win for the Bengals. Probably not a lot of wins for the Cincinnati Bengals this year, but the road gets tougher. You go on the road to Cincinnati, and you follow it up the next week in week 6 on the road at Kansas City, the redemption tour. Bryson, you mentioned on the show the other day that you believe this is an improved Kansas City team this year. The weapons are better. They stop playing these super low-scoring games that come down to a lucky penalty, if you would. Ella, are you a believer that Jared Goff and company, coming off a big-time win over the Browns, coming off a big win over the Bengals, can they go on the road again back-to-back and get a win over Patrick Mahomes?
I don't think so. I have I have the Chiefs winning for this one. I'm a bit biased, though, but they've always been one of my favorite teams to watch. But, Patrick Mahomes, he's an amazing player. He's an arrowhead, and the Chiefs are nearly unbeatable at home. So if Detroit's offense line struggles and they struggle to protect Goff, or even if they can't establish to run the game, it could be a very tough game for them. And the Lions defense will often have to be almost very perfect to stop the Chiefs and just to control the game, really. So, this is one of those games where even a very minuscule small mistake can alter the game and turn into very big problems quickly.
Amen to that. Bryson, you want to add on that?
No, I think Ella touched on a lot of it. I think that this, and you mentioned the Riggs, I think this Chiefs offense is going to be much better than it was last year. You think about the Hollywood Browns starting the season healthy as opposed to last year. Rashee Rice, depending on what happens with him, if there's a suspension coming or not, him being healthy, second-year Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce looks in better shape than he did last year. And then the defense is still so good. And they're in Arrowhead in middle of October now. So now it really is starting to get a little bit colder. I think this is going to be one where, we just talked about it, a couple big wins in a row for Detroit. Maybe they let up a little bit off the gas a little bit in this one. I just don't think the Lions have the defense to stop Kansas City. I think Kansas City has the better coaching staff in Arrowhead. I'm going to give the Chiefs a win.
And Ella, you are going Chiefs, official. Okay. All right. Well, guys, you know what? I feel so stupid fading Mahomes. And more importantly, Bryson, one thing I just didn't do last year, man. I just did not take Jared Goff on the road very often outdoors. I just don't like him once he leaves the stadium there in Detroit, but I'm going to do it in this one because this is a massive money game. This is a massive eyes on. The world's looking at the Chiefs. I think the Lions are playing pretty darn well up to this point in the season. I know you believe it's a better Chiefs team. I'm not convinced yet. I'm going to need to see it. You don't get to escape by getting, respectfully, bullshit calls 6-7 times in a year. And then I'm going to sit there and go, oh, well, they're going to be way better this time. They can't be better, in my opinion, from a record point of view, because they shouldn't have won half the games they won. So I'm going to give the Lions a big win here. I think it's back and forth. I think it comes down to it. I'm going to go 28-27. Lions have to score a touchdown to win it, and I think they get it done. And then Dan Campbell might just need to go for 2. And you know what he's going to do, Bryson? We're not going to overtime in Arrowhead, brother. It's not happening. They're going to win by 1 or they're going to lose by 1. I'm going to give them the win here on the road. Big time win, right. Stealing one in Arrowhead. Oh, man, I don't even know if I believe what I just said, but we're going with it. Moving on through here, this should be a really, really good game before the bye week in week 8. Week 7, they are at home against Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield coming to town. Ella, I can't wait to get your take on Baker Mayfield, if you believe he's a good quarterback or not, because Bryson and I are two guys that tend to go to bat for Baker Mayfield. We believe what they're doing in Tampa. We love the wide receiver room that they got over there, arguably a top 3 wide receiver room at this point. Some people might argue 1, but that said, Ella, do you think Baker Mayfield can walk into Detroit after that really, really tough stretch and find a way on Monday Night Football to steal one in Detroit?
I don't really think so. I think Tampa's Bay defense has shown a lot of weaknesses, and especially against the pass. So Detroit's top receivers could have big games, and if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get the ground on the Lions to control the clock, they should be able to keep Tampa Bay's offense off the field and pick up a solid win.
Big time win there. Bryson, I know, my man, I know you're looking at this schedule, and I know you're trying to figure out the losses. You're trying to figure out where they're going to choke a little bit. Is this a game that you trust your boy Baker?
I love me some Baker Mayfield, and you mentioned it. This offense, you just talked about the wide receivers, and this rightfully so. Like you talk about, they have 4 legitimate number 1 or number 2 wide receivers on this roster. You didn't even mention K-Dot at tight end. You didn't mention Bucky Irvin or Rachaad White. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. And what's interesting, I know a lot of people are curious to see how the Bucs do without Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator from last year. He's now the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. I think people forget Baker Mayfield has had a different offensive coordinator pretty much every year he's been a pro. So this isn't new for him. Learning a new playbook isn't difficult for Baker Mayfield at this point. So I don't think him having a new coordinator is going to be an issue. I think there's too much firepower on this Bucs offense. And now Tampa Bay, they play in a warm weather place anyway. They play warm weather teams all the time. But now they're going into a dome, so now there's no weather involved. So that helps Tampa Bay out a lot as well. I think the Bucs defense is slightly better as of right now than Detroit's. They were top 10 last year in both pressure rate and in total sacks. The secondary is a little bit iffy for me if I'm Tampa Bay, but I think it's going to be another shot-for-shot, shootout-type game. And I'm going to trust Baker Mayfield and their wide receiver unit a little bit more than that Detroit defense. So I'm going to give the Bucs a big win on the road in Detroit.
Wow. See, this is where Ella, I feel you more. But Bryson, I just took these guys after this long stretch, taking down Joe Burrow and taking down Patrick Mahomes. Are they going to come? It's hard because it's like, well, you're playing phenomenal. So should I just ride with the hot hand at home? Or is there a time and point where I have to figure out where the loss is going to come? What I will say is I do believe between Kansas City, the Bengals, and this game, I think the Lions win 2 of those 3. So I'm going to go with a loss here just because I believe that they're going to go 2 for 3 in those 3. Not predominantly saying they're going to lose. Maybe the money line is good, juicy dog in this game. You want to go Tampa Bay. I get that. So I'm going to go ahead and say of those 3 spots, I'll go ahead and try it here. Like you mentioned, if it's a shootout, it could go either way. I really like the kicking unit as well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'll say that if it comes down to it, they find a way to get this one done. But I completely understand if you guys want to rock with Ella on this one and go with a Lions win against Baker Mayfield and company. Then, once again, we head into a bye week in week number 8, and then a rivalry game pulls up here in week number 9, Sunday, November 2nd, at home again after a long bye against the Minnesota Vikings, who we believe is going to be J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson, and company walking up in the building. So that said, Ella, looking at this one, I don't know if you're a believer in J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, we didn't really get to see him play at all last season. He tears the leg in the preseason, but he's supposed to be the guy here. Do you think he can walk on the road and get a big-time win over Jared Goff after Jared Goff has damn near 2 weeks to prepare for him?
I don't think so. So even coming off a bye week, they're going to be very well rested and having, 2 weeks to recover and prepare for this game. Despite the injuries that they may have to key defensive players, the Lions definitely have shown depth and adaptability in their defensive schemes. And like I said, they're also they're coming off of a bye week, so they're going to have fresh legs and a fresh mind going into this game. So I think that really gives them the advantage as well.
Ella, I'm going to hop on the train with you all day long. I want to be a McCarthy guy, and I love Justin Jefferson. I don't know how you don't respect that kind of talent. However, especially Bryson, if we're correct about Tampa, and they're coming off a loss and 2 weeks to prepare. If I know anything about Mr. Dan Campbell, there's not a fucking shot that he lets his team lose this football game. I just can't do it. The Vikings might be good. They might not be good. Either way, though, whether they're playing up to par or they're not a better team than Detroit. They're not walking into Detroit, and they're not doing it after 2 weeks of preparation. Give me the Lions all day. I think this is going to be a controversial game by this point in the season, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be, dare I say, a double-digit win for Detroit.
This one's really tough for me because there's a lot about the Minnesota Vikings I really like. Obviously, I think Kevin O'Connell is a top 4 or 5 head coach in football. I mean, I don't know how, or at the very least, top 4 or 5 offensive play caller and mind in football right now.
100%.
I don't know how you see what he did with Sam Darnold last year. Like, this wasn't like he did really good things with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was good in Washington too. So it's not like he took a shot at Kirk Cousins and made him work. But he took a shot on Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold was almost the MVP. He was literally in MVP discussions until the last 2 weeks of the regular season when he kind of shot the bed for Minnesota. But Kevin O'Connell's phenomenal. You mentioned Justin Jefferson. They have Jordan Addison, probably one of the better wide receiver 2s in football. TJ Hawkinson, a great tight end. Good offensive line. Their defense is really good because it's really well schemed by Brian Flores. He creates such weird matchups and he blitzes all the time. He never gives a quarterback a second to breathe. But I'm not a J.J. McCarthy guy. I wasn't a J.J. McCarthy guy before the draft. I wasn't a J.J. McCarthy guy before last season. I'm still not a McCarthy guy. I need to see him actually play well in the NFL before I can have any faith in him leading a football team to a winning record, especially leading a team into Detroit, like you mentioned. So because of my worries with J.J. McCarthy, and because the Lions have the offensive firepower to go shot for shot with the weapons that Minnesota has, and I like Jared Goff more than J.J., I'm going to take the Lions to win at home.
I don't want to get into the rabbit hole at all, so I will make this as quick as I can. But can I ask what it is that you don't like necessarily about J.J. McCarthy? I ask you because you just defended Caleb Zesty Williams out here. And now you're going to fade a national champion. So just explain that one to me.
So my issue with JJ is because, yes, he's a national champion. But, man, you could put 20 different you could put more than 20, I think, different D1 starting quarterbacks on that Michigan football team, and they still probably win the national championship. Like I think that year they had 13 or 14 NFL draft picks. They had 4 or 5 in the first round that year. He was coached by Jim Harbaugh, who's one of the best coaches in the NFL now, again. So he had NFL coaching, NFL talent all around him. It was one of the weaker years for the big teams. Like Alabama wasn't great. Georgia had kind of a letdown year. So they didn't face the best teams in college football on their path to the national championship either. And JJ was like was asked to do the least amount of work for that team. Like if you remember that season, it was Blake Corum. Blake Corum was the offense. They ran that ball 40 times a game, and they would routinely win games with JJ throwing the ball less than 15 times. So like I didn't love how they didn't trust JJ to throw the ball a lot in that national championship win. I don't find his arm strength great. I think he was a second, maybe third round quarterback who got propped up because he was coached by Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh talked good about him, and his team was so good that any quarterback, Caleb Williams could have been the quarterback too, and they probably would have gone undefeated and win every game by 20 points anyway. Like,
don't do that. Don't do that. This is Caleb Williams, who beat a first-year Colorado team with worse defensive players than fucking me being on the field, okay? And he went toe-to-toe and took a final drive pretty much to beat Colorado at that point. Every time that he was supposed to win a game and he lost, he cried about it. Then he goes over here to the Bears, and he has a bunch of different weapons, and I thought he kind of got bailed out by people saying, oh, well, they didn't have this, and they didn't have that, and they didn't have this, and they didn't have that. I didn't really like that about Caleb Williams. But anyway, this isn't a Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy debate. I'm just saying I find it funny that you defend Caleb, and then you're fading this guy. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. We got to keep moving. So we'll go ahead and hop in another debate for another day. All of a sudden, we move on through here to week number 10, turning point of the season for the most part. You got at the Washington Commanders. Ella, I don't know if you're a fan of Jayden Daniels and what they got going on in Washington, but it has been very, very impressive. The reigning rookie MVP over there. Do you believe Jared Goff, playing good football at this point, goes on the road, kind of puts it to the rookie, second-year rookie, and says, hey, dog, you had a great year last year, but, this is veteran versus second-year rookie at this point. Do you like Jared Goff to go on the road and steal one here in Washington?
I don't think he will. I think Jayden Daniels has shown that he can stay calm under pressure, and the Lions defense will have to contain his ability to run and pass, which will be very difficult for them. And Washington's defense, led by Bobby Wagner and Jonathan Allen, can definitely create a lot of pressure and disrupt Goff's rhythm. And obviously playing at home gives them a big advantage. So I think they have the win for this game.
Oof. All right. A Lions L, Bryson. We doubling down on the L here.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Then I'm going to be the one guy that goes against you. I think we're going to see a little bit, not a massive one. It's not going to be like the CJ Stroud level sophomore slump that he had. I think you're going to see a little bit of a sophomore slump from Jayden Daniels. Nothing major, nothing that's going to ask people like question whether he can be a long-term, really successful quarterback. Because I love Jayden Daniels. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's everything you look for in a quarterback in the NFL. I just think you might see a bit of a drop-off. Don't love the offensive line for Washington, even though they went out and got Laramie Tunsil. I don't love the defense. I do think their defensive line's phenomenal, like you said, Ella. But outside of the defensive line, I don't love the secondary in Washington. I think that the Lions are going to have their way offensively with this team. And this is going to be one of the few games where I think Detroit's improved pass rush is going to show up. They went out and got Marcus Davenport, a very solid, nothing special, but solid edge rusher in the NFL to pair up with Aiden Hutchinson. I think this is going to be one of those games where you see the pass rush get a little bit of success going because I just don't love Washington's offensive line. And I have the Lions losing a lot of games to good teams. I don't think that's going to happen all year for them. I do think they'll find wins against good teams. I think this is one of them. And one other thing I think is going to be interesting to watch for Washington specifically, Dan Quinn teams tend to be really hot early when he's the head coach. You think about Atlanta. They were really hot. They were winning a lot of games his first couple of years. And then they start to drift. They start to get a little bit worse year by year under Dan Quinn. I don't know if that's going to change. This is his second stint as a head coach, so maybe he figured that out. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if Washington can keep that same hype that they had going from last year into this year. So I'm going to have Detroit winning this one, even though it's going to be a pretty tough football game.
It's going to be a very tough football game. And if this game goes down in Detroit, I think I'm 100% riding with you, but I've talked about the fact that I don't like the travel here for Jared Goff outdoors. It's a decent way to go. It's starting to get really cold out there. That's kind of why I've opted to side with Ella on this one and go with Washington to find a way to get this one done. But like Bryson said, guys, this is a coin toss of a football game. Won't be shocked when this rolls around if the Lions come in like a 1.5 point favorite or something like that. And at that point, I want the juice. I want the dog to get it done. So going to rock with that one to get it done. We'll see what happens in week number 10. Week 11, things don't get any easier, folks. Now you're going to go play the Super Bowl champion at their house Sunday, November 16th, the Sunday night game, by the way. So I just talked about him going outdoors and struggling. I'm going to go ahead and go first here, guys. I'm saying on the road in Philly. I just don't think they find a way to get it done. Now, this is two coaches that I believe bring their best out against good opponents. So I think it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be fun. But if one team pulls away, it's the Eagles. If one team on the final drive, I have to take them to get it done on 4th and 2. I want the Eagles. Kicker outdoors, I want the Eagles. I just trust them here. So I think Saquon has a big-time game. I think they find a way to get it done. Ella, give me an Eagles W. Are you with me or against me?
I'm definitely with you. I mean, the Eagles have one of the most balanced and dangerous offense in the league, with Jalen Hurts capable, of beating teams with both his arms and legs, and he provides a very powerful and explosive run game. And their defense, which is led by, their very smart and sneaky coordinator, he is able to disguise coverages well, and they're known for dialing up pressure in key moments, which could definitely disrupt the Lions. And playing at their field has an advantage as well. And, if the Lions fall behind very early, they're forced to throw often, they become more predictable for sure, and giving Philly's pass rush and secondary chances to force mistakes onto them.
I love what you ended it on there with them forcing Jared Goff late, because Bryson knows it's one thing that I was very critical about Jared Goff last year. Was I felt like as soon as things started to get, they got down. As soon as they get down 10, they start winging it. And I like Jared Goff, but sometimes the decisions just aren't there. You see him putting the head down. And now that said, his mistakes doesn't tend to mean he's out of the game. He could make he could throw 3 picks and 4 touchdowns and fucking win a game. I just don't think this is that game. So I'm with you. Once again, Bryson, we got 2 votes for Philly. Yeah. You going to go against us again here?
No, I'm with you guys on this one. On top of everything you mentioned, the playing in Philadelphia, on the road, outdoors, the fact that I still think the Eagles have the most complete roster in football. The one thing that Ella mentioned at the end there, I think is the big key here is and you mentioned it too, Riggs, forcing Jared Goff in this offense to be one-dimensional. Because last year you saw when they could shut down the run game, when Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery weren't having their way with opponents, Jared Goff was asked to be Superman, and he's not Superman. He's just a really good quarterback. And you mentioned it, Riggs. He had the game last year, I think Jared Goff did, where he threw like 4 interceptions and still won. I don't think that's possible against the Eagles. I think if you give the Eagles 4 extra possessions, they're coming away with, at minimum, 20 points, 2 touchdowns, and 2 field goals in that kind of scenario. And then you also mentioned, Ella, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. As a Broncos fan, I'm very well familiar with Vic Fangio because he was our head coach. And while a lot of things didn't go well with him as our head coach, we did always have a good defense. And specifically, that defensive line was always good against the run. They knew how to shut down teams as best. The team's number one advantage in this for the Lions is the run game. So I think the Eagles are going to be well prepared to force the Lions to be a pass-heavy team. And while the Eagles' secondary is young, and that's probably their biggest question mark, the fact that they're not going to be able to run the football, They can get pressure on Jared Goff. That's going to give the Eagles secondary a lot of room for error in this one. So I have the Eagles winning as well.
All right, Eagles pulling out the brooms, clean sweep for the crew here. Then moving on through, guys, we got a very, very nice break, if you would. Coming back home after 2 weeks on the road against Bryson's favorite quarterback, Russell Wilson. At this point, though, we don't know. It could be Jackson Dart.
It'll be Dart.
Who, by the way, Bryson, you were the #1 sports forum guy that went to bat for Jackson Dart last year.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you so many times, I'm like, bro, you got to stop buying in on this fucking kid. And you just kept believing that Jackson Dart was that dude. So maybe by week 12, which I believe on the Giants show that we did do, all 3 analysts at that point had Jackson Dart being the starter by week 12. So assuming we get Jared Goff versus Jackson Dart at this point in Detroit, are you going to go with your boy Jackson Dart to find a way to pull one off? And almost, by the way, you never know, catch him sleeping.
No, I think I mentioned it earlier that the Lions really only have a couple gimme wins on their schedule. The Giants are one of them. I think it'll be Dart. That's my prediction. I've mentioned to a lot of people, I think it'll be Dart by Thanksgiving. So depending on when this game is, I think Thanksgiving's the next week. So who knows if it's still Wilson by this point. But I think it should be Jackson Dart at this point in the season. I think the Giants are going to be a mess and not have a lot of wins under their belt. And they might as well throw the rookie out there and see what he's got. I love Dart. I think he's got everything you need in an NFL quarterback. His decision-making is a little bit questionable at times, but I think that can be something coached out of him with a good coach like Brian Daboll. The one thing that does give me a little bit of hesitation in this one is that defensive line for the Giants might be the best in football. You talk about Brian Burns. They went out and they got the rookie from Penn State in the draft. They have Kayvon Thibodeau, and they have just that defensive line is going to cause pressure all the time. They don't need a blitz to make it happen, which is going to make the rest of that defense play much better than they actually are. So that defensive line against this Lions offensive line is going to be something to watch for. But unfortunately, I just don't think they have the firepower offensively to keep up with this Detroit team. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a Lions win, probably a pretty comfortable one, probably 2+ touchdowns in this one for me. So I'm going to give the win to the Lions. But man, I'm going to be really excited to watch Jackson Dart play football this year because you mentioned it, I'm a big Dart guy.
Mm-hmm. And like you just said about Thanksgiving, obviously Thanksgiving is the very next game in about 4 days from now. So right before Thanksgiving, could be Jackson Dart, could not be. But like I mentioned, the earlier show we did for the Giants schedule prediction, which by the way, folks, you guys can find on our YouTube channel at The Sports Forum. Click that subscribe button, drop a like, comment what you guys think about our predictions. If you agree, disagree, we'd love to hear it all. But that said, Ella, are you with Bryson on the Lions here? Pretty easy win, or could this be a Jackson Dart / Russell Wilson potential scare?
I'm with Bryson for sure. The Lions, are vastly more talented than than the Giants, but the Giants, they're still rebuilding, as Bryson said, and they could possibly have new leadership and a new coach by this point. And, they have a very weak roster right now. And yeah, they should definitely outclass New York and pull off a comfortable win with that one.
Yeah. Do I have to waste 3 more minutes of our time and tell you guys why these guys are right? No, I don't think so. Honestly, it could be Russell Wilson. And if it's Russell Wilson, low key, Bryson, you could be a hater all you want to. He's not a Steeler anymore. But I will say, I think Russ gives them a better chance to win this game than rookie Jackson Dart does at this point. So if it's Russ, maybe my tune changes, but I don't think it changes who wins this game. Maybe if they're a 14.5-point dog, maybe I'll look for taking the points, but I'm definitely not looking at the money line. So another clean sweep for the Sports Forum over here against the New York Giants. Then we move on through to another rematch, Thanksgiving Day. We all know it. This tends to be the best Thanksgiving matchup. God knows it's not the Dallas Cowboy game. That's not the best matchup. I don't know when I'm going to stop having to watch 4 hours of my life of Dak Prescott sucking on Thanksgiving, but I have to do it again here. But the opening, sorry, not the opening. Oh yeah, wait, I'm on the East Coast now. Oh my God. So this is the morning game on Thanksgiving. 4 days later, Green Bay Packers rematch. I took Green Bay in week 1 to get the win. You both said that Detroit was going to find a way to get it done. So that said, Ella, Thanksgiving Day, you're sitting down, you got the spread food in front of you. Maybe you don't care about football on Thanksgiving, but if you do, who's going to win this game?
I have Detroit for winning this game. I think they've dominated the Green Bay Packers last season and, winning 6 straight division games. So they're going to have a lot of confidence and momentum. So I'm definitely on their side for this. And playing on Thanksgiving definitely gives them more of a confidence boost. I mean, even for Green Bay as well, but I think it amplifies all their strengths, and the Lions come into the game very, well rested with some recovery time. So I have them for this game.
Bryson, who is going to make you 1 for 1 on your Thanksgiving parlay here?
I'm taking the Lions to win as well. One thing I didn't mention in the first game of the season, we talked about the Packers and the Lions, is when the Packers released Jaire Alexander. First of all, Packers cornerback room already not the deepest and most talented in the NFL with Jaire Alexander on the team. Then they cut him, and they instantly, like the next day, or maybe it was the same day, I can't remember now, but I think it was like the same day they cut Jaire Alexander. They put out a video of Bo Melton, a wide receiver on the team, getting cornerback reps. If you're throwing a wide receiver out there at corner against this Lions team, good luck defending Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle, because that's going to be easy money for Detroit. I don't think the Packers defense is going to be that good this year either. It is later in the year, which typically in the Jordan Love 2 years as a starter kind of thing, that's when he picks it up. Jordan Love not good in the first half of the season for whatever reason. There's that weird trend, I don't know if you guys have seen this, where it's like after Toyotathon, Jordan Love's stats and record is like unbelievable. Like he's lost 2 games in that time span, and he's thrown like 5 whole interceptions, something crazy like that. So he's usually pretty good in the second half of the season. But being in Detroit, in the Dome, with the fans rocking and roaring, and it's Thanksgiving Day, it's going to be a tough place for Green Bay to go in there and get a win. So I'm going to have the Lions winning and going 2-0 against the Green Bay Packers.
Well, guys, I already regret my decision, but I'm going to stick to it. My pedal to the metal. I am going with an upset here to open things on Thanksgiving morning, and also a 2-0 sweep of the Detroit Lions for the Green Bay Packers. I could be very, very wrong here. And Bryson, I think you pointed out the defensive deficiencies. Say that 5 times fast. I think you pointed that one out. And that is a concern of mine for sure. But the one thing is on Thanksgiving, first of all, America is betting on Thanksgiving. And there's nothing that bookmakers want more than a Detroit Lions loss to open things. So that's honestly part of my decision here. But second of all, if you're going to go with the Lions to win this game, folks, before I even see the odds, take whatever money you have to your name. Don't actually do this. And put it on Josh Jacobs to score a touchdown, because it's going to happen. He might not win the game for him, but they're gonna find a way to score. But anyway, jokes aside, 2-0 sweep, Green Bay Packers. Bryson, you mentioned it, 1-5 in the division last year. The Green Bay Packers were. I think they turn it around here and they sweep the number 1 team in the division this year in the Detroit Lions. So these two going with the Lions on Thanksgiving.
I have a quick question real quick. I have a quick question then, Rick. So you don't have to go too deep into it. I don't know if we'll cover this on a future show then. Do you have the Packers winning the division?
No comment, dog.
Okay.
Didn't do the Packers show yet. So I can't spoil that one. But folks, stay tuned. Next week we got the Packers show dropping, so that should be a fun one. But to answer your question, if I have them 2-0 against these guys, and I don't fucking like Caleb Williams, you can do the math. I'm not saying yes. But I'm definitely not going to put them. I'm not going to put them at 3 or 4. I'll tell you that. But hey, only time will tell. That said, moving on through here, guys. After Thanksgiving, got a nice little only a 7-day break. They go from Thursday game to a Thursday game, so not the 10-day break in this spot. I didn't even know that. But on Prime Video, make sure to tune in for the concert after the game. 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, December 4th. Dallas Cowboys come to Detroit to get this game done. Ella, I'm not a Dak guy. I've heard Bryson's takes on him. We got to get your takes on this one. Do you believe that Dak Prescott goes on the road to Detroit? December football has begun and gets a big win.
I don't think so. I think Detroit has us in the bag for this one, but Detroit's offensive line is elite, and if they control the line of scrimmage, I think the Lions can dominate the time with the possession. So if the Lions are on a late season playoff push, like as expected, they'll definitely come into this game with laser focus, while the Cowboys may still be, searching for their rhythm and their retooled offense and defense for this game.
When are the Cowboys not searching for rhythm? Oh, I love it. It's just so beautiful. But that said here, Bryson, I have to point out, my man, you already pointed out that the corners and the safety positions and stuff for Detroit in some spots could be of concern. It was last year. If you're going to pick them apart anywhere, it's probably on the defensive side of the ball. They add George Pickens over there in Dallas. They have CeeDee Lamb, who, I don't believe is a top 3 wide receiver. A lot of people, though, believe he is a top 3 wide receiver. So is this one of those games where Detroit puts up 34, but they give up 40 and they lose?
So I am one of those people that thinks that CeeDee Lamb is a top 3 wide receiver in this game. I'm a little higher. I think people have swung so far in one direction on Dak Prescott that me just being like kind of okay with him seems controversial. I think Dak Prescott's good. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's going to lead a team to a Super Bowl.
Bottom 5 quarterback last year, Bryson. Bottom 5.
I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback that gets a little bit of hate because he's the Cowboys quarterback and because of the money that the Cowboys gave him. Not really his fault the Cowboys gave him that much. Anyway, for this football game, you did mention it. I think that the secondary for Detroit could have their hands full with George Pickens and with CeeDee Lamb. And if Dak Prescott's still healthy at this point in the year, that could be an interesting matchup. I do think Ella pointed out something that's really critical, though, and that's the Lions' ability to control the line of scrimmage in this one. The one thing that Cowboys have had going for them is their ability to get to the quarterback lately with Micah Parsons and various other edge rushers that can get to the quarterback. If the pass rush for Detroit is basically non-existent, this is going to be an easy game for the Lions to win because the rest of this roster, I like Dak, I like CeeDee Lamb. I'm not the biggest George Pickens guy, but he's a good wide receiver too, I think. But you're looking at a running back room of Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, a pretty nothing offensive line for Detroit, a rookie head coach in Brian Schottenheimer, who his father, Marty Schottenheimer, legend of the game. It's going to take a while for Brian to even come close to touching what his father did in the NFL. So it's his rookie year as a head coach. This Cowboys roster is kind of a mess, unfortunately, for Cowboys fans, not unfortunately for me. But I do have the Lions getting the win at home against this Cowboys.
Oh man, I can't wait for our preseason quarterback debates and it's just going to be so much
Dak's
fun.
Top 10. I just think he's good. I don't know. I think people have
look, I don't know how you make the most money. You're the bottom 5 in stats. Every year it's your fucking year, but yet it's never your year. I feel like this dude had 2 good seasons back when I was in high school. And now all of a sudden people still think that this dude's – it's like, remember when Carson Wentz was good for 2 years? I swear to God, that was Dak, but Dak found a way to make it like a franchise thing. I don't know how he did it. I don't know if it's Jerry Jones, but the dude is mediocre at best. He has 4 good games a year, and he's completely overpaid. Just my opinion. Anyway, my pick is ain't no way he goes on the road and wins this game. Give me the Detroit Lions all day long to find a way here Thursday, week 14, right after Thanksgiving there. Then a very, very good test for these guys and a team they could see in the playoffs later in the year. Week 15, Sunday, December 14th. Now they get that nice 10-day break at the Los Angeles Rams, 4:25 p.m. on Fox. Ella, looking at this one, I don't know how much you are into Matt Stafford and the Rams and if you're a believer or not a believer, but Bryson seems to be a little more of a believer. I'm more of not a believer. Where do you kind of fall here with this Rams team in general? And do you think that Goff goes on the road and gets a win?
I think I'm a believer. I think that the Rams are going to win for this one. I think for them traveling all the way to California, I think it's going to be a long trip for them, and
Yep.
it comes after a very, tough stretch of games. So, the time travel, like traveling especially, can definitely affect your energy and performance and your focus. So, yeah, the Rams defense also it's shifted into a scheme that focuses on generating a lot more pressure rather than relying on shutting down corners and different players like that. So their corners are being used way more aggressively than in the past. And yeah, if they disrupt Golf's timing, it could throw the entire offensive line off.
I have a fear here, Bryson, that every single thing she just said you're going to agree with, and then I'm going to be up against the wall.
I'm pretty much going to agree with a lot of it. One of the things that you mentioned, Ella, that I think is phenomenal for this Rams team is that defensive line. And they went from a just having the best defensive lineman in football, and that's how they got their pressure with Aaron Donald, to they were like, a lot of times when you lose a player like that, teams go, oh, we have to overpay for one guy to maybe be 90% of what this other guy was. The Rams did something very different. They instead went out and got 4 guys who are all like maybe 70% of what Aaron Donald is or 60% of what Aaron Donald is. And they put 4 really good defensive linemen in together at once, and they can just rotate pass rushers. No one gets overused. No one gets exhausted throughout the game. They stay fresh the entire time. And then I think the Rams sneakily might have had the best offseason in football, like in the entire NFL. Like, they had a really good offseason. Getting Devontae Adams alone was probably enough to put them in that conversation. I thought they had a really good draft as well. I think, I'm a big Matthew Stafford guy. I think he's phenomenal. And one thing that's been really interesting to see over the last 2 years is the back half of the season is really when the Rams, and specifically Matthew Stafford, catches fire. Like, they play phenomenal football post bye week, whenever their bye week is. That's when they really hit their stride. And I mentioned Kevin O'Connell being a top 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 offensive mind and offensive play caller in the NFL. I think Sean McVay might be the number 1 offensive play caller and offensive mind in football right now. Maybe behind Andy Reid. He might still be behind Reid, but man, Sean McVay is right there. And I think this Lions defense isn't good enough to stop this Rams offense. I think this Rams defense is good enough to slow down the run game for Detroit and get to the quarterback enough. So I'm with Ella. I think this is a Rams win at home.
How did we get here?
They did
Stafford
beat
ain't
the Lions
that dude.
last year.
Stafford ain't that dude no more.
Really?
I believe that the Lions are in possession of the better quarterback. I know that everyone believes that at the end of the day, the trade was Stafford's the way better quarterback, so he's the guy they're going to overpay for and get all these things. And yeah, they went all in. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and they won a ring, and they've been mediocre ever since. They let Cooper Kupp go in the offseason, which I just, to this moment, I don't really understand it. I know they want to build around Puka Nacua. I'm not convinced by that. I think by this point in the year, you see Stafford's body starting to break down a little bit. I understand everything you said, Ella. I think you made great points, especially defensively, with the Rams getting a bit better. But ever since the prime Jalen Ramsey days, 3-4 years ago, when things were going really well, they were winning Super Bowls. I'm not impressed by the defense. And Stafford, he's a good quarterback still. He's not a great quarterback. He's not the most clutch quarterback in the world, and he has a massive interception problem. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jared Goff, the bad guy. Call this man whatever you want. Batman's rolling in to L.A. in Week 15 here, and he's going to upset Stafford in his own house. And there's this little piece of me that I think Stafford is retiring after this year. If he does, it's the last time he plays Goff. I have a little fear that he's going to dig deep and he's going to beat him. But put all the BS aside, I like Goff and the Lions to walk up in there and get a big-time win. So these two, rocking with Matt Stafford and company, I'm going to go ahead and go with the Detroit Lions to find a win. Then a week later, Week 16, my Pittsburgh Steelers travel on over there to Detroit's final home game of the regular season, 4:25 p.m. on CBS. Ella, before anything is said, I have to know. I've asked you about a couple teams. Are you a Steelers believer? That's the big question here.
I'm not.
Oh,
No.
man. All right, guys, I'm clocking out. See you guys later. All right. Fair enough. But can they beat Detroit in Detroit? That's the big question.
I don't think so. So I think the Steelers have, have a very inconsistent offense. Pittsburgh is ranked 23rd in total yards last season and still lacks that dynamic passing game. So if Aaron Rodgers is starting, I think Detroit's defense will look to pressure him and take away those quick throws that he is so famous for. And the offensive advantages, I think the Lions have a much more explosive and balanced offense with Goff, Gibbs, and they can challenge Pittsburgh's secondary even if the run game stalls. And obviously, home game advantage. And it's a very critical December matchup. The Lions are built to handle a lot of the late season pressure. So they've proven that they can finish strong. So that's what matters most.
Yep, you are correct. However, before Bryson Owens talks, I want to remind him this is not Russell Wilson. This is not Najee Harris. This is not George Pickens. It's a new football team. And Bryson, I rewatched our show the other day, and I got to tell you, I was a little bit offended that you had the guts to say that it's ultimately, your words, the same team. Nah. The more I reviewed what you said, I have to disagree with you. So, my man, they might not beat the Lions, but I don't want to hear you say that again. I just want to make that clear.
All right. Well, I won't say it to you in person again. How about that? Because I'm gonna keep thinking it in my mind. Because you talk about
I know.
You talk about Stafford, his body breaking down at this point. God, talk about a body breaking down and no longer being useful at this point of the season. Aaron Rodgers just called because my guy, he's 40 years old. And he's going to be playing behind a really bad offensive line throughout this entire season. I'm not a big Arthur Smith guy. I don't think he's a very good offensive coordinator at all.
He's not. No.
I think they have one weapon or maybe two weapons that can really challenge the defense with DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth. Everyone else is meh. Like, I'm not the biggest Calvin Austin guy. I don't love your running back room right now. The defense is going to be the only thing that has any chance of keeping you in this football game. And even then, it's like really good pass rush, questionable secondary. They're going to have to shut down the run game to have any shot at this one. And I just don't think they're going to be able to do that, not at home or not in Detroit. And another interesting piece to keep in mind when picking this football game, Aaron Rodgers is going back to Detroit, where he had a lot of success in his career. Obviously, it was Green Bay Packers' success and a different era of Detroit football. But those Detroit fans hate Aaron Rodgers. Like, this might be the loudest the stadium gets all year just because they're going to be booing Aaron Rodgers all game. So I'm going to take the Lions to win. I think that they are a step above in terms of talent and scheming and just overall play at this point in the year than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's fair, my man. It's fair. It's wrong, but it's fair.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this football game. Give me a huge win here. Ella mentioned it. She said going to be in that playoff window kind of game here. Big time win for the Lions. They can't let this game slip by them. Maybe they're fighting for the title in the NFC. All those things could be true. Like I said, I think the Packers are going to be right on their butts. It's going to be close. But this is a game where I think this is where the interception and some of the problems come through for Jared Goff. The Steelers do have the defense to shut down this run game more than most teams, I should say, have the ability to do it. Also, you look at Jared Goff, you kind of mentioned it. Jared Goff, you just said he's not better than Stafford. Well, Jared Goff's not better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you can say what you want.
I think
Bro
he
takes one hit of ayahuasca, and Jared Goff's not on his level, dog. I'm telling you right now. Okay? So trust me when I tell you, Aaron Rodgers' stat line in this game with half the weapons will outdo Jared Goff's stat line. And most importantly, I think the defense for the Steelers steps up. I think the defense for the Lions kind of choke up here a little bit. This one comes down to field goals. If it's going to come down to field goals, I want the best kicker in football. Give me Chris Boswell on a game winner. I'm going to go Steelers 23-20 flat. I'm going to go 23-20 flat. Boswell gets it done for the Steelers. Huge win, and also for the Steelers at this point, I think their season's on the line, and they very well could be in a can't lose again scenario. I think they find a way here. So maybe I'm a fan. I am. But
you can't have the Steelers going undefeated.
Wait till we do that show. I might have to sit out that show. I don't think it's fair to have me on that show. But anyway, moving on through here, guys. 2 more games on the schedule at the Minnesota Vikings. This one 4 days later, Christmas Day. We get to see the Lions on Thanksgiving. We get to see them on Christmas. A lot of prime times. This one here on Netflix, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Ella at the Minnesota Vikings. We talked about J.J. McCarthy. Could this be a redemption game? Could it be a little bit more Minnesota is now fighting for their lives? Do you see a win here, or is this kind of one of those one more big-time win to kickstart before the postseason begins? All the starters are playing, and they get a win over Minnesota.
I think they're getting the win over Minnesota for this one. I think from the last game when they played, I'm sorry. I lost my
No, you're good. The Vikings. I know there's a lot of games here.
Yeah, so their last matchup with 3 rushing touchdowns from Jamar Gibbs, that shows that the Lions can definitely attack them and very effectively, both on the ground and through the air. The Lions' offensive line provides very excellent protection and running block, which gives Goff the amount of time for him to find his receivers and opening lanes. And Detroit's defense has improved in many key areas from the last time that they played them. So, and also playing on Christmas Day, they're going to have very high energy, and yeah, I think they're going to take the win on this one.
Bryson, are you going to go with the clean sweep here with Ella over the Vikings?
Yeah, I have them getting the win over the Vikings. Again, I think a lot of the points stay the same from the first game. One of the interesting things about this matchup, where you go from home to away, unlike the Chicago Bears and the Packers one, where you go from indoor to outdoor when you go from home to away, this is still an indoor game for Detroit, which plays in their favor really well. Again, still not a JJ guy. I think this is going to be one where maybe the Vikings are still hanging around a wild card spot and they need this win to get it done. And you see some pretty much rookie, because for all intents and purposes, JJ is a rookie in the NFL. You see some rookie jitters from JJ. He's not quite ready for the moment, stuff like that happening. And Detroit, I think they're going to be in a dogfight with the other 2 teams in this division. I think you're going to see the Packers and Bears really pushing the Lions for this division, and they're going to need this win against the Vikings. So I think that this game is very important for Detroit. It might not be as important for Minnesota. I'm going to give the Lions a win.
I'm going to join both of you. This is a Lions W. Like you said, if I have these guys losing on Thanksgiving, I don't think I can have them losing on Christmas as well. So I'm going to go the big win here. Once again, could be close, could be both teams that need it really badly, but I kind of mentioned when I brought it up with Ella, I think there's a world that this is the last game that the starters are all playing for the Lions. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with the big-time win here. But then things get interesting in Week 18, because in Week 18, we could be looking at a Bears team that is either in the playoffs, fighting for the playoffs, or out of the playoffs. I'm going to go ahead and say, for all intensive purposes, and what I think is going to happen, I think this is a win and you're potentially in game for the Chicago Bears. On the other side, the Lions should be in, but let's go ahead and say if they win the NFC. So both teams have to win this game. Ella, at Chicago this time, are you going to go with Bryson's guy and take Caleb Williams?
I think the Lions have the win on this one. I think that, they've been sweeping them since 2024, and they've held a 5-game winning streak against them. So, why they would definitely want to keep that going. And I think that's honestly motivation enough for this game. But I honestly think that they have the upper hand on the Bears.
You hear that, Bryson? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So
What's going to happen?
I do think it's going to be that type of scenario to a certain degree. I don't think, based on my record that we'll go over in a little bit with the Lions, I don't think they'll be in contention for the number 1 seed, if even with a win here. But they will need this. They'll be fighting for the division, obviously. I do think this could be a win and you're in for the Chicago Bears situation. I think they could be somewhere around 9-7 at this point, and 10 wins could get you in. Being in Chicago, and at this point now Caleb Williams has had 16 games with Ben Johnson, 16 games with the new offensive line, 16 games with the wide receivers, all those kinds of things. The fact that it's in Chicago in January, which means it's going to be cold, that's reason enough for me to take the Chicago Bears to win this one. I think Jared's going to really struggle in this one. It's going to be cold. It's in Chicago, so it's going to be exceptionally windy, which I think Jared Goff is going to really struggle to throw the football in. I think that they can only run the ball so well against this Bears defense. It is a good run defense for Chicago, which I think could be a huge issue for Detroit in this one. So I think this is going to be one of the shocking, maybe not shocking to me, but shocking to the rest of the world type of wins for the Chicago Bears that kind of points to maybe they're a couple steps ahead of where people thought they were going to be at this point in the season. So I have the Bears winning. I have the Bears getting enough wins to get into playoffs, and the Lions are going to be, really sweating bullets for that division.
Well, while I give my pick, I want to remind both of you to make sure you go ahead and take one more quick look here. And this goes for all you folks watching as well. Take a quick look here. We'll start at the beginning. Count your wins that you have for the Detroit Lions, and let's figure out here our total wins on the season. But while you guys go ahead and do that, I'm going to go ahead and say, and I'm going to spoiler alert, my total wins for the season. I currently, at this point in the season, have the Lions at 9 total wins. So for me, they not just are going to go for the NFC. They got to win this game to potentially make the playoffs, if you ask me. So for me personally, I don't think they let this slip by, but Bryson mentioned it. You guys know it. I've been saying it all day. I don't trust Jared Goff away. I really don't trust him away outdoors. And I really don't trust him away outdoors in the cold in January. Not a good recipe. So for me personally, it's not a situation that I want to be in per se, but it is a situation where I think they need to win. And if it's back against the wall, let's just say, I can't say who's going to win the division, but let's just say it's between the Bears and the Lions and the winner gets into the playoffs. At that point, I'm not taking the Bears to win this game. If so, I mean, good for the Bears, good for Caleb Williams. It will be in their favor, like you said, Bryson. But I think the run game alone can win this game for the Lions. So I'll go with a Detroit win. And by the way, folks, for me, I have a 10-7 record for the Detroit Lions overall. It does put me below the 11.5 of the win total for them this season, but 10 wins should at least be a playoff push. Bryson, looking at the schedule, my man, what is your record prediction?
I have them at 11-6, so just one game difference between you and me. Again, below that 11.5. I think they're 15-2. People are going to see 11-6 from me and go, wow, they really dropped off from last year. I think a lot of that just has to do with the amount of road games in outdoor stadiums they have this year compared to last year. Like we talk about the Baltimore game, the Kansas City game, Cincinnati, like all these games being on the road outdoors is going to be a huge factor for this Lions team and a pretty much all new coaching staff.
Yep. All right. So 11-6 for Bryson, 10-7 for me. Ella, where are you finding yourself for the record here?
I think I'm at 11-6 as well. I agree with pretty much everything that Bryson said. Definitely the weather and traveling has a very big impact on the players. And I think, well, personally, I think like the time change and everything can definitely mess with your physical health and how you perform. So I think that's a huge factor.
All right. And I got to be honest with you guys. I want to remind you, I got to 10 wins. And for all of those out there, they're going to say I'm tripping. You're probably right. I probably am tripping. But if you recall, I did give them a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did give them getting swept by the Packers, but I also had them sweeping the Bears. So it's very wishy-washy. I know all three of us actually, if you go look at the breakdown, none of us are in agreement really across the board game-wise, but we kind of got to the same point at the end of it. So 10 for me, 11 for them. All of us on the under 11.5 wins. So very, very interesting there. Want to remind you guys, do us a favor, subscribe on YouTube at The Sports Forum. Click that button, drop a like, comment your record predictions below. We're doing all 32 teams. 5 of them are done. We got a solid 27 to go, so it should be fun. I'm Riggs Tamburo, Ella Brasinga, Bryson Owens. This has been What's Your Take, Detroit Lions 2025 predictions. We'll see you guys in the next one.